What is up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Danky2988 coming at you live through the power of the internet, with the hopefully the final episode of this debate. It seems like every time I keep saying this is going to be the final episode, but then I just find myself sort of prattling on until uh, before you know it, we're at the 40-minute mark. So, for those of you who have stuck with me thus far, thank you. Thank you for listening, and I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get in. When we last left off, Hassan was trying to explain to Destiny the concept of class struggle.
That allows the wealth hoarding to occur under capitalism.
In a perfectly horrible capitalist world, sure, but I mean in the real world, right? Markets should set wages that aren't necessarily that horrible. That, for instance, because ideally somebody would want to open a firm up and pay somebody $2 an hour to do a job. They probably can't do that because another company is going to pay them more than $2 an hour, right?
There are definitely other forces in play. There's social pressure. There's collective bargaining in some countries, but I didn't assign any morality to it. There was no value judgment. I was just describing the different interests that a worker and a owner of capital or a boss would have, right?
Yeah, but then you went on to further make the claim that the boss is it sounded like you were saying the boss is 100% of the ability to set the wage here, which isn't necessarily true.
No, I didn't say 100% of the ability. I said they.
Well, the boss would have 100% of the ability to set the wage if the boss had absolute control, but because of the workers' unity, their collective bargaining power, in many cases through strikes, can actually outdo or overpower the capitalist's own influence, despite his own powerful capital.
They have more influence because they have more capital, and this.
Me and Hassan, I think we're psychically connected because we just keep saying the same thing.
Allows them to hoard even more wealth.
Okay, wait, we're making different arguments now. So right now, it seems to be the case, at least in the West, or at least in the United States.
No, they weren't making different arguments. I think Destiny just misunderstood the question in the very beginning. But let's keep going.
The case of corporations probably hold a disproportionate amount of power versus workers. That seems to be an obvious case today. But when you make a statement like corporations will always or necessarily hold more power than the workers, then the solution there is going to be a lot different than saying well, corporations will always have more power over individuals, right? Because if you believe that corporations will always have more power over workers, regardless of circumstances, well, then the only solution is violent, fucking revolution.
And here Destiny has pretty much come across Marxist-Leninism 101. He kind of came to it himself, but I'm proud of the guy. He's learning. He's learning, ladies and gentlemen.
But if you believe right now that
some people do believe that, yeah.
Sure, that's fine. Fuck those people. Those are the people I don't give a fuck about. I don't care about any of their fucking opinions about.
Oh, well, he was almost learning. He was almost there, guys. Sorry, he came close, but like Icarus, his wings burnt up when he got too close to the sun.
Anything, okay? But if you're somebody that believes that right now corporations have more power over workers, and that's something that can be remedied either with stronger unions or with some sort of federal enforcement of minimum wage laws or something, well, then there are different approaches that we can take.
Stronger unions and stronger minimum wage laws will strengthen the working class, but it won't ultimately end the dynamic between capitalist and their oppression of the proletariat. At the very crux of capitalism is the exploitation of the worker for their labor. So, only a system which seeks to abolish the corporate structure completely will completely solve that discrepancy. Unfortunately, there's no amount of collective bargaining that will force a capitalist to give up his private property. Seemingly, I would like that to be the case. Of course, anybody would like there to be a peaceful, non-violent, revolutionary alternative, but nevertheless, a revolution is needed, either through political means, through direct action, but either way, a complete reordering of society is needed, and trying to place band-aids over a mortally bleeding wound, as is the case of higher minimum wage increases and stronger unions, will only really delay or placate the proletariats for a short time. But the oppressive dynamics of capitalism still remain in the system.
Different policies that we can apply to rectify the situation, rather than just the blanket statement of, oh, workers will never be able to negotiate anything, which is demonstrably not true.
Yeah, I mean, workers will be able to somewhat improve their living conditions, but if you even look at social democracies in Europe and the austerity measures being taken place in even places like Denmark or Sweden, you'll realize that the erosion of the welfare state in these countries are, again, still a consequence of capitalist corporations, their influence over legislation, and the decisions that capitalist governments make that still end up taking away these social programs from workers.
What you just told.
Here's the first step. All right, the capitalist companies lobby on behalf of politicians to defund certain publicly funded organizations. Let's just use healthcare as an example. Let's say Big Pharma lobbies a bunch of politicians to defund healthcare, public healthcare. And so all of a sudden public healthcare becomes shitty, and the right-wing politicians take advantage of that, and they say, well, you know, public healthcare is shitty. The private alternative offers a much better service. So they ruse a large percentage of the public into abandoning the public sector healthcare and embracing a bullshit private healthcare system. I mean, that's just kind of like the scheme. That's the scheme of how private capital slowly picks away at the social gains accomplished under social democracy. That's why a lot of far leftists say that social democracy doesn't go far enough, because it doesn't get rid of capitalism. It just puts a band-aid over a bleeding wound. It's capitalism with a smiley face, but it's not a true revolution. It's not a true change, and only a socialist revolution, a proletarian revolution, and the establishment of a proletarian state can bring about true social change, true social revolutionary change. Anyway, let's keep going.
Told me there is that's a take that I don't know if I even necessarily disagree with you. But what you're arguing against right now, what you're literally saying, because these are all democratic countries, what you're literally saying is people are too fucking stupid to vote in their own interest. So maybe democracy is the problem here, not necessarily any form of economy, because these are all still democratic nations, right? The United States isn't where it's at on accident, right? Like, we vote for the people. Like, look how many people in the Rust Belt vote against their own economic interests when they vote in people like Trump, and then cheer when he gives tax cuts to the wealthiest people in the United States and pretend it helps them. So what is the problem here? Is it capitalism? Is it rent-seeking behavior in capitalism? Or is it that voters are too stupid? Or is it a bad education system that doesn't educate voters? Like, what's the problem?
I would say it's kind of all three of those things. I mean, let's look back at the list.
Cheer when he gives tax cuts to the wealthiest people in the United States and pretend it helps them. So what is the problem here? Is it capitalism? Is it rent-seeking behavior in capitalism? Or is it that voters are too stupid? Or is it a bad education system that doesn't educate voters? Like, what's the problem?
I think the problems are sort of twofold, in that there is a real lack of education. Part of this has to do with the mainstream media, but all this ties back into the influence of capital on education and on mainstream media. All of the capitalist media, they aren't interested in sponsoring like true social change. So you're not going to hear anything about like Marxism, Leninism on any kind of mainstream political platform. Let's go back just a little bit more.
Accident, right? Like, we vote for the people. Like, look how many people in the Rust Belt vote against their own economic interests when they vote in people like Trump, and then cheer when he gives tax cuts to the wealthiest people in the United States and pretend it helps them.
I just
so
want
what is the problem?
Make sure I have him in context.
Here, is it capitalism? Is it rent-seeking behavior in capitalism? Or is it that voters are too stupid? Or is it a bad education system?
So yeah, I mean, I think it is capitalism. It is poor education. So yes, I think it is two of those things, he said. Let's keep going.
System that doesn't educate voters. Like, what's the problem?
Bad education system creates an uneducated populace. An uneducated populace oftentimes votes against their self-interest and votes for reactionary politicians who point the finger of blame at immediate things that they can get angry at, And when they do that, you implement more austerity measures.
Okay, but
you
how
give
did
more
we
power
lose
to corporations?
Okay,
Where is
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Okay, and you can tie a very neat bow around it and make it sound like problems capital.
Well, let him present his response, dude. Don't just cut him off. Big Brain Destiny, I thought he was all about debating and but he's not really. Hassan's trying to explain shit to him and he's just not interested in hearing him. I think Destiny I think Destiny's big mistake here is just debating in the first place. Like, he should have just told Hassan, look, like, I'm not really interested in this topic. Because it's obvious to me, like, he's not interested in listening. He doesn't give a shit. So, I mean, let's keep going. I hope he sort of, like, turns this around, changes his attitude a little bit as we come towards the end of the debate. Because, as it is right now, I'm not really hearing anything of substance come from him.
Them. But I could tie the same neat little bow around it and say, well, look, the problem is people are fucking stupid because we had better education and it seems like we voted it away. We had stronger unions and it seems like we voted it away. Like, it's not like capitalists are single-handedly doing this.
I mean, it's not that the workers voted their own rights away. It's that slowly the influence of capital put politicians in power that had the capacity to weaken labor power, unions, organized labor, and slowly administrations such as the Reagan administration or in Britain Margaret Thatcher greatly through policy diminished the power of the union and the labor movement in those countries, a scar of which I know, at least in the United States' case, we've never really recovered from. Our labor movement has been more or less destroyed ever since Ronald Reagan's administration. So let's keep going.
We don't have a fascist government in the U.S. We don't have it.
We don't have a fascist government in the U.S. I mean, that's sort of debatable at this point. I mean, Donald Trump's rhetoric, his ideology, if you can even say he has one, is very fascistic. His methods are fascistic. So even though we don't call ourselves the fascist states of America, we can still exhibit hyper nationalistic fascist tendencies, and I believe certainly under this current administration we definitely do.
Totalitarian government. We are still a representative democracy. All of these things that we've lost, all of the power that the workers have lost, they themselves have voted away. So I mean, like, we're at the end of the day, where the fuck, like, and now you're telling me that these same people need to be put back in charge now that they have less education than ever because of what they voted for, now that they have less representation in the workplace as ever because of the people they voted for. Like, how am I supposed to be left there thinking that the average person should be left in charge of the workplace when they're the ones themselves that have gotten themselves in this own fuck place? It's a representative democracy.
Whoa, I mean, there's a lot I could say about that. It's very condescending to just equate all these workers with just being these uneducated, idiotic dregs that are completely incapable of managing their own workplace. I mean, you talk to a lot of people, and specifically, I know someone who works in IT, and they'll tell me all the time, like, if the managers would just climb out of my ass for 2 seconds, I could get so much more work done. But I mean, there's an argument to be made of a productivity standpoint, but there's also, of course, an argument to be made that one's technical expertise, just because you may have the technical expertise to run the machinery or to manage the factory or the business or the workplace, that doesn't give you the right to towards capitalistic exploitation of the workers. Under a socialist system, you would still have management, but the management wouldn't be exploiters. They would be fellow workers, just as technically skilled, just as educated, just not capitalistic and oppressive. So let's keep going.
When every institution that disseminates information is talking about talking about specific things in unison as though they are unachievable. Let's use Medicare for All as an example. Medicare for All was regarded as a deeply unpopular idea. It was totally impossible to do. Barack Obama tried to push for the public option for single payer. People are still, in the Democratic Party, people are still saying, in the Democratic establishment at least, that Medicare for All is unfeasible. But the people want it. Why? Why did public polling on Medicare for All change so dramatically? It's because someone was out there on television screaming their fucking ass off day in and day out about how important it is. The reason why people are voting against their self-interest is because there haven't been a lot of vocal voices in the past that have had this much influence to lead people in the right direction. For them to actually even admit that certain progressive economic changes are feasible. And that we should demand it.
It sounds like you basically take one point of mine and then you kind of sort of respond to it, and then you say like 5,000 things that I agree with. Like, I don't even remember what the original point we responded to were, but I mean, like, it's a whole bunch of like things that but usually everything you say are things that I generally agree with. So like, I'm not gonna like disagree with anything. So I don't know where I'm at.
All right. I think Destiny has just sort of like admitted that he's lost the debate. I mean, I think he has not really paid attention. He has struggled his way through this debate to listen and to really absorb what Hasan's trying to tell him. I don't really think Destiny. It's really a shame to say this, but I think Destiny's just trolling in this debate. I think he's just trolling. I don't think he's really interested in having a discussion with Hasan. I don't think he's really interested in ironing out the issues of that he has with the left. In honest, rigorous debate. I think he wanted to shit on the left, call us LARPers, call us cringe lords, basement dwellers, incels, whatever. And he just wanted to chuckle about that and say how dumb our ideology is without really even addressing any of the real reasons. He didn't really go into detail about the reasons. He just said, "Oh, they're stupid. They say we should kill landlords. That's stupid." Well, I mean, explain why. Explain why in the sense of class struggle. Explain why in the context of leftist thought. This is really sad to see. Hasan looks like he's just about to like internally combust. I mean, he looks like he's just about to throw in the towel. I wonder what he's gonna say to Destiny, because I mean, I can tell he's getting pissed. He's getting frustrated. He's getting pissed off because Destiny just doesn't seem to be taking this whole thing seriously.
But you're really cute. It's really cute when you do.
No, don't fucking say that, Raj. That's really fucking mean. Okay, fuck off.
What? It is what? I think he's cute. What's wrong?
Okay.
You're being dismissive of everything he's saying by saying he's cute. Hasan is more than just a pretty face.
No,
Raj is canceled. Raj, are you ready to join me on the Chapo Cell hate train? Because they're about to go after. You're patronizing as fuck. You're going down, boy. Oh,
Are they?
shit.
Are they taking me out?
See, I mean, he's just trolling him. What kind of fucking honest debate is this? Like, let's just, the guy, he has his little buddy on calling Hasan cute. Oh, it's so cute. Look at the cute little socialist making his dumb little commie arguments. Come on, dude. I mean, I thought you were better than this. Apparently, Destiny's only like a good debater when he's debating against absolute morons like Lauren Southern and JonTron, but when it comes to debating like actual big boy ideas, he just doesn't seem to really give a shit.
You're canceled now. See ya, buddy.
It's not me. I'm not doing it again. Fuck you guys, man. It's literally 1 point. If you're that fucking retarded that you can't understand a single fucking
Hell yeah, Hasan, go off on his ass.
point, like third world exploitation, and I don't know what the fuck to tell you.
Ableism, weird champ.
Why are you being ableist right now?
Yeah, fuck your ableist ass fucking chat then. Holy shit, dude. Are you happy? You fucking triggered me. There you go, you dumbasses. Oh, I can't understand 1 point he's making. It's 1 fucking point.
Now, I think we should just take a step back.
Okay, wait. Can we all? Let's find a point of.
Destiny's just such a fucking troll in this debate. I mean, you guys can go back and watch the very first part where I said that I admired Destiny, and indeed I did. But I mean, just seeing this disingenuous farce that he calls a debate is just, he was disrespectful to Hasan's time. He wasn't taking him seriously. He wasn't really he wasn't interested in a debate. I mean, I'm repeating myself at this point. But I am glad to see Hasan kind of went off on him. I don't think I would have been I try to be a patient, but I don't think I would have been able to hold on as long as Hassan did.
Agreement, okay?
Let's just
Listen,
think about
I
what.
love you, Hassan. I'm pretty sure that we agree on 95%. But the
Once again, when you have like fundamental disagreements on like issues as crucial to leftist theory as like income inequality and like how uh, class struggle works and how classes are formed, you can't really say you agree on 95% because you don't. You have major disagreements on key issues that firmly solidify you against uh 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 what is commonly thought to be left thought, leftist thought. Um so let's keep going. We only have a little bit left to go.
original point I made was that all fuck. Can we
mic
come to
cut.
agreement? Can we agree that all internet, all communities are cancerous as fuck? Can we agree that is that over?
Yeah, sure. There's cancerous elements to every community.
Okay, that's all I needed. Okay, I love you very much, but I have to leave to go to bed soon. Okay, stay safe, Bruno. Cappuccino, cappuccino.
Wow. All right. So that was a really pretty poor performance from Destiny. I think that about wraps it up. I pretty much said all I wanted to say about this. Um, it's clear that Destiny is, at least in this case, just trolling and just being kind of a dick, to be honest. I I hope that he um has a stronger willingness to listen to his opponents next time, to actually like try to listen and understand what the leftists believe, because he seemed to not really even concern himself with that. So with all that being said, thank you so much for staying with me this whole time watching this debate. And I'm sorry for all former Destiny fans who have, been turned off and soured by his really poor arguments and his bootlicking of capitalism. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching.